ESPN's headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut, where tonight 32 college players will hear their names called and become professionals in the Premier Lacrosse League. And there are the guys making the decisions. All 8 head coaches plus some GMs are here on campus with us as we go to the PLL College Draft, and that is where Paul Rabel will announce the first pick in just a matter of moments. As we say hello and welcome, we can't wait to watch this unfold with you alongside Paul Carcaterra and Ryan Boyle. I'm Drew Carter, and Carc, as we enter this draft, what's your headline?
Let's address the elephant in the room, and it's Joey Spallina. He's Syracuse's great attackman, phenomenal player, a fantastic passer, a creative type of player. He's 2 points away from breaking Mike Powell's all-time record from a point perspective. His dad, Joe Spallina, happens to be the GM of the California Redwoods. They have the 6th pick. Joey Spallina is number 1 on my draft board. What is Joe Spallina willing to do in terms of packaging current players on the Redwoods and or draft picks to get the number 1 spot so father and son can unite? Here's the reality. They are a very, very close family, but Joe Spallina has also coached Joey for a good portion of his life. That bond goes beyond just father and son. It's coach, it's player. I think Joe Spallina would be willing to move mountains to get his son a Redwood.
And meanwhile, Archers, who have the actual pick, if you look at them, they have a clear need at this position. They really struggled last year offensively. And you look at Spallina, and I think he's really a floor raiser. You know, I think he gets better the more he's surrounded by quality players. I think he's going to be a fantastic pro, flanked by guys like O'Keefe, Schreiber, guys he grew up kind of watching. And you look at this Archers offense, and I think they're looking for the next face of that franchise. If you don't go Spallina, right, next up is kind of Aiden McGuire, short stick defensive midfielder. Archer's loaded at that position, and it's not normally a position that would go number 1 overall just based on the value you get at that pick.
Yeah, short stick D-mid has never gone first overall in the pro draft all 25 years. It's never happened, but Aiden McGuire could be the best player in it. Before we get to the first pick, let's show you how this is going to work out. 8 teams in the PLL, 4 rounds, 32 total selections tonight. First round, you get a little bit more time with 4 minutes per pick. Rounds 2 through 4, just 2 minutes apiece. We've mentioned some of the top names already. Here is Carc's big board. Spallina there at the top. McGuire there at 3. Silas, Richmond, and Albany. They play tonight against Siena. Some talent through the midfield there, 4, 5, and 6. Eric Spanos from Maryland. Evan Plunkett from Army. Billy Dwan III, the top defenseman. Couple injuries have really dented the depth at that position in this draft, Carc, but it's obviously not just Spallina.
No, you guys were talking about Aiden McGuire. He's the safest bet. Like, he is a plug-and-play, short-stick D-midi who could be a first-team All-Pro as a rookie. But who is going to give up an opportunity to draft a true quarterback in Spallina or Silas Richmond? Silas Richmond is a 6'4", 220-pound, right-handed Canadian who plays for Scott Marr. Albany has become a PLL factory pipeline, creating talent. He plays in that kind of system already. And everyone talks about his finishing ability, but the reality is, if you dissect his game, he's also an elite passer. So he's an intriguing offensive prospect. When you look at the big board from a first-round perspective, there's some big dogs hanging around offensively that they're going to want to gobble up quickly because I think there's a drop in talent midfield-wise later on in this draft.
And it's because of the injuries of the defensive position. You know, every draft seems to have an inflection point. And for me, that inflection point actually happened before the draft. When Will Schaller and Bobby Van Buren of Maryland and Ohio State respectively got injured, now teams that were maybe eyeing that top-tier, top defenseman, do they now pivot to an offensive player? Or do you start talking yourself into kind of a tier 2 defenseman who kind of is rising up in the ranks?
All right, enough dilly-dallying. Unlike in recent years, there is no consensus at number 1. Let's find out who the Archers are going to take. For that, we go to PLL president and co-founder, Paul Rabel.
Drew, Paul, and Ryan, it's great to be back with you guys. And coaches, it's nice to see you. What an exciting night as we approach our 8th PLL season. It's a night that we get to recognize the best college lacrosse players in America and see how our 8 clubs are going to shape their future. I wanted to quickly congratulate everyone who's going to be selected. But more importantly, to those unselected tonight, the row's not closed. Last year, Dalton Young was undrafted, played for the PLL championship on behalf of the Denver Outlaws as a starter. Jackson Eicher, undrafted, played for the Carolina Chaos, and just won the championship series. So selected, unselected, it's your time, and we're excited to watch you. Now, with the first overall pick in the 2026 PLL College Draft, the Utah Archers have selected Aiden McGuire, midfield, Duke University.
Wow, Aiden McGuire, the first shorty ever selected first overall.
You look at this team and what they need. Eventually, I thought they would get to a two-way midfielder. I guess this is a place you could take McGuire and let him go a little bit more from D to O. I mean, you look at their rope unit. You've got Piper Bond, Connor Marr, and Bo Pedersen. They're young. They're athletic. You're basically adding strength on strength. The issue for me is you're going to have to win some rock fights. So how do you score more if you're Utah? Clearly, it's the ability to go from defense to offense in transition. Chris Bates has never shied away from kind of zigging or zagging with everybody else's consensus wisdom. So he's just adding now to the strength of his team, the top overall athletic player in this draft.
Look, this strength got a lot stronger. But the reality is you've missed out on generational type talent with potentially a Spallina or a Richmond to quarterback your offense when that offense is getting older. That's the reality. But let's talk about what McGuire can do that's different than the other short stick D middies on that team. He's the best shooter of the bunch. If you watch him at Duke, he's been at his best triggering transition from defense to offense when he's also a shooter. This guy shoots the ball about 95 miles an hour on the run. He's an absolute freak. I think the PLL is going to unlock Aiden McGuire to new heights in terms of his scoring. I think there's more two-way potential here than at its surface. I think you just think short stick D midi. They drafted the first short stick D midi, number one in the history of professional lacrosse. But this guy, I think there's layers to this.
Well, clearly the fans of the Utah Archers, they are excited as they get the number one player. In their eyes, Aiden McGuire at the Arrowhead, the Utah Archers fan watch party. This is a proud franchise that won back-to-back PLL championships before missing the playoffs last year, and that is how they ended up with a number one pick in this year's draft. They add Aiden McGuire. Second pick in the draft belongs to the Boston Cannons. It is in. Let's go back to Paul Raven.
All right, with the second overall pick in the 2026 PLL College Draft, the Boston Cannons select Mikey Weishauer, Towson University.
Mikey Weishauer has a ton of pro potential at two positions. So my first question is, when you draft him number 2 overall, you look at him as a lefty attackman because you did get Coulter Mackesy in last year's draft, number 1, or is he a midfielder? Mikey Weishauer has had a massive X on his back since the day he arrived at Towson. He's the highest recruit in Sean Nadelin's history, and he's delivered as Conference Player of the Year. He's super, super shifty. He does not back down from any matchups. I look at him as a straight line dodger in terms of space, but he's also creative in regards to quick step type stuff around the crease area. He's an awesome player. He's a no-brainer pro. I just don't know about the fit for the Cannons with Mackesy.
And I like it. And the reason why is because of that versatility, right? You think about what he's able to do as a midfielder. Listen, Matt Campbell is a true number 1 midfielder. Ryan Drenner, recently injured. You miss him. You need that number 2 guy that can bring the heat from up top. But Weishauer, his ability to go play attack, I think less so on the left side, but maybe spelling more at X based off of what he's done at Towson. And then now with Mackesy, you play them together, and now you've got a lethal 2-man game unit on that left side. You look at Will Manny retiring. Mackesy doesn't really have that partner on the left side. Weishauer now is checking 3 separate boxes.
Yeah.
The midfielder initiator, he can spell you an attack behind the cage, and he can be that lefty wing partner with Mackesy. So I think he checks a lot of boxes. That versatility is why I love him for the Cannons.
The last 2 years at Towson, he's played attack, but it's more out of necessity to quarterback that offense. At his best, he's a midfielder in space. So to your point, you put him up top. You could potentially put him as a midfielder in the 2-man game with Coulter Mackesy, but he has the speed where, a lot of guys that are that fast don't need a pick. Like Michael Sowers doesn't need a pick. Mikey Weishauer is that fast where he doesn't even need a pick.
Well, just think about the shooters they have on the Cannons now. Marcus Holman, Coulter Mackesy, Matt Campbell. And now you add Mikey Weishar from Towson. He's the second pick in the draft to the Boston Cannons. We have 2 picks down. Let's go to the Maryland Whipsnakes, who are at number 3, and for that we go back to Paul.
Now, with the 3rd overall pick in the 2026 PLL College Draft, the Maryland Whipsnakes select Joey Spallina, attack, Syracuse University.
There are Joey Spallina's teammates going nuts. I've had Joey Spallina, number 1 on my big board since last year when we turned the calendar and the page in terms of what this draft would look like. Why? Because he's the ultimate quarterback. He has elite vision. He's incredible off the ball. And if you put him in a 2-man game, he drives you nuts because he can get a short stick matchup, but he also manipulates defense with his IQ. Everyone talks about superpowers. Joey Spallina's superpower is his lacrosse IQ and his overall stick skills. He's a tremendous in-tight type player as well. I think if you put him around some other players like TJ Malone, who will get a number 1 matchup, Joey Spallina with a 2 is a different beast.
This is the best passing attack unit in the league, bar none, day one. You now have added Spallina to Rob Pennell, the all-time assist leader, and then TJ Malone, a couple years off of a Rookie of the Year campaign. The IQ of that 3-man unit right there, assuming they bump Aiden Carroll up to midfield, which he affords you that flexibility. Now, all of those shooters from the midfield have been completely unlocked. You look at Brandow, right? Matt Brandow, his off-ball prowess. Our aforementioned Aiden Carroll. And then now Spallina is able to learn under Rob Pennell.
And never have the number 1 defender on him.
One of his mentors, one of the guys he grew up watching, idolizing, right? And showing him the ropes as a pro. I mean, what a dream scenario to walk into. The IQ, the ability for him to play off-ball of Pennell and TJ Malone. This is really an intriguing attack unit, just given the lights-out IQ and passing ability.
I've known Joey Spallina since he's a young little guy, right? He was on the sidelines of his dad's New York Lizards teams. This is going to be the first time where he doesn't have a monster X on his back. If he was drafted to Utah number 1, he'd be getting the number 1 matchup at attack a lot of times. This is an incredible situation for him to learn under Pennell, who he idolized, but also TJ Malone, let's not forget, 2 years ago was the Rookie of the Year. He's going to get the big matchup in terms of the number 1 defender on opposing teams. Spallina can go into the PLL, and he could breathe for the first time in his life as a lacrosse player.
Little forward look for the Whipsnakes. I would not expect them to look to draft a midfielder, an off-ball guy with range from a shooting perspective. Look at that in the later rounds now that you've added Spallina to this attack. Just make note of that.
Clark, you mentioned Joey when he was a little kid, hanging around the pro lacrosse world. Well, we've got some video. You know, Rory McIlroy just won the Masters. There's some video of young Rory. Here's young Joey. RB, I think you were hanging out. This was halftime of the All-Star game back in 2011. You remember watching young Joey?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there he is diving on Jesse Schwartzman.
That's good. I was going to say the legendary Jesse Schwartzman. And this one, the time capsule, the time machine, him with Steven Berger, just a legendary trick shot contest there.
You know what's great about that picture, too? This has been his dream.
Yes.
Like, when Joey Spallina was a young kid, his dream was to play college lacrosse at the highest level. Check. He's at Syracuse, right? Playing in front of those massive crowds. He's 2 points away from breaking Mike Powell's all-time point record. The next spot in his lacrosse dream is professional lacrosse. This is a kid who's wanted to play professional lacrosse his entire life.
You look at some of the critiques, and it's like, this guy's going to be a pro's pro, dedicate his life to it. He's been productive every single place that he's gone. Like, celebrate what he's going to achieve as opposed to picking him apart.
He's been productive despite having a massive target on his back. From being the number 1 recruit to getting the number 22 at Syracuse. He takes that program back to championship weekend and now trying to cap it off as a senior. But he is the 3rd pick in the PLL draft. The Carolina Chaos are on the clock. We are still awaiting the selection, maybe some maneuvering here in the first round. But as far as the Chaos are concerned, RB, what do the team needs?
Yeah, I look at them. They just need a third starter at attack or just best available. I love Iker on the right side, Owen Hiltz on the left side. That third spot, I thought was an opportunity to upgrade the depth of the short stick defensive midfield position. And then you see the last one. Look, they've only got 2 picks, and they've certainly got more areas that they could address despite the successful season last year. So an opportunity to leverage this 4th pick into just getting a little bit more bodies in terms of where they need some of these spots, more kind of shots. I think if they're exploring this, certainly there's some names of intrigue still available. So I think they're taking advantage of kind of what's afforded them.
Yeah, Carolina, Clark, won the championship series after a year where they were a -15 in the score differential, didn't score a whole lot of goals. And they got Stephen Brooks as their new head coach. He was the OC for the Atlas. Spencer Ford is their GM. Where do you think that they might go here?
I would go Silas Richmond. I mean, I think he's the pro presence that you want on the right side in terms of dual threat ability. You mentioned Jackson Iker. He's more of like a brute force scorer, right?
Yep.
Silas Richmond can help quarterback that offense. And you have Owen Hiltz on the left. You have Silas Richmond on the right. You can float Iker. Iker ran through the box sometimes and played midfield too. Like, to me, this is Silas Richmond.
Or Palumbo, Chad Palumbo, and feel free to give me the homer. That's totally fine. But I think also his flexibility in terms of playing both attack and midfield, what he affords them on that left side where they need a little bit more juice. I think he's a very natural fit as well. He'd be somebody that I think would be day one, get in the lineup right away.
Yeah, you know what's interesting to me when you mentioned Chad Palumbo? Like the old Chaos with all of the Canadian flair, I'd be like, oh, definitely Palumbo because he plays the 2-man game with Hiltz on the left side. This pick will be interesting to see where Spencer Ford, the GM, and Stephen Brooks, the head coach, are going philosophically speaking, offense-wise.
The Chaos have changed a lot in recent years, made the playoffs last year again, won the championship series in February. It sounds like there is some movement with this pick, some action here in the first round. Trades in the draft, RB? I mean, we've made it through 3 picks without a trade. Almost feels like this is longer than we expected to wait for a trade.
Well, I think the introduction of more general managers has certainly made our job just a little bit spicier in terms of just them being a little bit more active, whereas when it was the head coach GM kind of combo, you get emotionally attached to certain players, you got to answer to the locker room, whereas that kind of like one layer removed from the general manager position, you could be a little bit more aggressive, whether it be the offseason or in terms of the draft today.
And we've got breaking news, which is why I'm putting my finger to my ear. The Denver Outlaws have moved up to pick number 4, the team that won the West last year, now picking 4th. Let's see who they picked.
Guys, thanks for your patience. I'm going to do my best Matt Palum here and make sure I get this right on the first trade of the evening. The Carolina Chaos have traded their number 4 pick to the Denver Outlaws in return for the Denver Outlaws number 7, 22, and 28 pick of the 2026 PLL College Draft. Now, the Denver Outlaws have selected with that 4th overall pick, Evan Plunkett, midfield, Army West Point.
Wow. I did not see this.
Yeah.
I didn't see this for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
One is you have some speed dodgers on this team already. Evan Plunkett's a phenomenal midfielder. He's a pass-first midfielder as well. So you get a little bit of a two-way in terms of Evan Plunkett, but also his vision. There's a lot of goal scorers on that team. So I'm thinking that Tim Sudan, the head coach, wants some more passing from up top. You're seeing him take it coast to coast there, score against North Carolina. But the reality is he's had 4 seasons now over 20 assists. He has crazy vision. He's the best passing midi in this draft. My question, though, is with your commitment to Army and what you are doing on the back end of graduation, how long do you get Evan Plunkett for? Do you get him for a year, for 2? Now, the last thing I'll say is with those back picks that he gave, Tim Sudan gave the Chaos on the back end, it tells me that he probably doesn't think this draft is deep like potentially next year.
It's so many thoughts. The first thing that this signals to me is Jared Bernhardt is playing attack, right? So I think when you move Jared Bernhardt to attack and Wisnauskas up to midfield, Yes, you gain Jared Bernhardt on attack full time, what his ability to break down the defense, go in transition. But what you lose is that midfield presence. You lose that midfield initiator. Initially, when I looked at their team needs, I thought they needed a lefty midi. Unclear what they were going to do with Bernhardt. If you draft this midfielder at this high, then that signals to me that you're kind of made that decision. You're kind of pot committed. My other thing is Plunkett at 4. I just wonder if he would have been there if they just kind of held serve at 7.
I think so.
That to me is also kind of part of this intrigue, because you're trading up, and I don't know necessarily he would have gone to either Chaos, Water Dogs, or Redwoods at 4, 5, or 6.
That tells me that Tim Sudan is invested in Evan Plunkett as a player. Like, stylistically, he's saying, I don't care what you say. Like, this guy fits our offense. You brought up the point about Jared Bernhardt. Jared Bernhardt is a top player in the league. Speed-wise, no one can match his feet. But when you get him out of the box, right, on a short shot clock scenario, there's no one in the league that can create offense coming out of the box like Jared Bernhardt. So if you move him to attack, you lose a little bit of that.
But I also think you lose points on the board having him come out of the box. I think when you pair him with O'Neal and Kavanaugh, show me a defense.
3 cover guys.
Show me a defense that's got 3 cover guys with the different archetypes that can match up to those 3 different personalities.
Yeah, the last thing is Jared Bernhardt's so good, you could justify, you'd want him through the box, you want him on the right hand, but at the end of the day, Tim Sudan likes this guy and is willing to go up, even though he probably could have had him later at 7.
Yeah, he's making sure, and he made this trade to ensure that the Denver Outlaws would secure Evan Plunkett from Army. 4th pick goes from Carolina to Denver. The Chaos receive the Outlaws pick later on in this first round, which is at 7, plus 2 picks later on in the draft, the 22nd pick and the 28th pick. Mark, I think you brought up a good point about maybe how that reflects what Sudan thinks about the depth of this class, and certainly how he felt about Evan Plunkett. We have 4 picks in. We are halfway through the first round. The Towson Tigers celebrate. They're celebrating in Central New York as well. Back after the first round when you come back. Cross League College Draft presented by Q-Collar. First 4 picks are in. Aiden McGuire, the short stick defensive midfielder from Duke, goes first to the Archers, and Mikey Weishar second to the Cannons. Joey Spallina third, Evan Plunkett fourth, as we welcome you back inside the studio. Kark, how surprised are you by the first 4?
Shocked. I mean, we're talking off camera. I mean, if you were to tell me that those were the first 4 picks, now there's some players in there that are top 4 worthy, but McGuire's the first short stick D midi in the history of professional lacrosse to go number 1. And then Evan Plunkett wasn't on my draft board in terms of the type of player that would be top 4 worthy, top first round, second round, yes, but also the whole idea of his commitment to Army afterwards, like how long is he going to be able to play for Tim Sudan and the Outlaws?
Yeah, I think the first 3 picks, maybe different orders, right?
Yes.
Different order, but those 3 guys, I think Plunkett is that we've now got our inflection point of the first round. That's needless to say. Like, I think that now is going to impact these next few picks in terms of like some guys that they would have thought would be gone are now available.
Water Dogs on the clock at 5, and for that, we go back to Paul Rabel.
Now, with the 5th overall pick in the 2026 PLL College Draft, the Philadelphia Water Dogs select Silas Richmond, attack UAlbany.
Point-producing machine, complete lack rat. I was at Albany 2 weeks ago filming a Through X segment with him, and I asked him, what is your plan B if pro lacrosse doesn't pan out? He said, I don't have a plan. This kid loves lacrosse with every fiber in his body. He's also 6'4". He's 220 pounds. Elite around goal line extended. Do you realize potentially what the Water Dogs can have from an attack perspective for the next 10 years with CJ Kirst on the left, Michael Sowers at X, and Silas Richmond? And the beauty of all 3 of them is their dual threat. CJ Kirst is a big-time passer. We know about Michael Sowers. CJ Kirst is also the all-time leading goal scorer in the history of Division I lacrosse. But Silas Richmond has box lacrosse background and field lacrosse blended in one. Good in tight quarters, great in space. When I broke down his tape, the biggest surprise to me was his vision and how he can throw a through pass to the backside, who that would be C.J. Kirst.
No, you're spot on. This attack unit is seemingly now set up for the next decade. To me, this now shifts into how do I manage the locker room? How does Coach Tierney, because you've got Kieran McCardle, right, still slotted as one of those that's starting attackman. He's your captain. He's your veteran leader, your presence. So if you're going to draft Richmond, now you've got a delicate situation in terms of how do you incorporate that player? How do you manage that locker room to ensure that everybody's on the same page in terms of how we're going to actually incorporate? Is he coming out of the box? Are we going to split time? How are we managing that with not only McCardle, but also Kirst and Sowers? We saw this last year with Kirst. Started out of the box. We all wondered, when is he going to play attack? And then he played attack, and then boom, they took off. That to me becomes the most intriguing thing, is how do you incorporate Richmond?
Well, you have a chance to ask Bill Tierney about it in just a second, as the legendary head coach of the Water Dogs is joining us right now. Coach T, why was Silas Richmond the pick here?
He's just got too much talent, does so many different things. I think he's a generational guy. You mentioned it, that he'll be playing for the next 10 years. This guy is lacrosse through and through. He's just, we talk to him, he loves the game, and most of all, he looks great in purple.
We already know that.
Coach, we talked about the integration of Richmond, given the current unit of Sowers, McCardle, and Kirst. What is your vision for how kind of you weaving him in?
Well, it's interesting because we also have Zed Williams. And so it's going to be a little bit of a situation where, Dylan Sheridan will figure that out. But we are just, you've got to take the best player available. And we're actually surprised that Silas fell to us a little bit. And so we're just excited. We'll figure it out. This guy, he's a big body, as you mentioned. He can play on the right side with Jack Hanna and Connor Kelly and Michael Sowers. He's just multidimensional, and we think he'll fit in really well.
Coach, potentially down the road, when you think of an attack with C.J. Kirst, Michael Sowers, and Silas Richmond, what comes to mind?
Hope they come visit me at my grave. I mean, these guys are, this could be, we may not take an attackman for another couple of years, that's for sure.
So many good offensive players. Champagne problems for Coach T and the new GM, Dave Cottle, and the Philadelphia Water Dogs. Coach T, thank you. We'll catch up with you later on in the draft. And, Kark, you mentioned you know this guy pretty well.
Yeah. That's great. We were on the field, and, he had this through the legs. I had him showing me how Connor Fields would do it. And it was just okay, but he then kind of later on said, I have my own patented thing. It was that behind the back shot, and that thing was whistling, man. That thing had serious heat. He's got a ton of those tricks. Those between the legs of Connor Fields and these wraparounds that we see, like Silas Richmond is going to give an entertainment value to pro lacrosse. And I mentioned it too, like Scott Marr. Let's give him his due. Like, he is producing pros, whether it's Lyle Thompson, whether it's Blaze Reardon, Connor Fields, Troy Ray, Pacino. The list goes on and on. So system-wise, it's going to work. And Ryan, you said something about the Denver Outlaws. Like, imagine putting a defense and asking them on the field to guard Jared Bernhardt, Pat Cavanaugh, and Brennan O'Neill. That's like 1A and 1B for me. Like, these two teams now are built to give defensive coordinators absolute fits, because how do you have three cover guys?
All right, the Redwoods stayed put at 6. They are ready with their pick. Let's go back to Paul.
With the number 6 overall pick in the 2026 PLL College Draft, the California Redwoods select Michael Leo, midfield, Syracuse University.
You look at the Redwoods in terms of what they need offensively, and I had one of their biggest is a flex offensive lefty, whether that's an attackman or a midfielder. And you look at Michael Leo and what he's done over the course of his career at Syracuse, playing both of those positions and being able to produce, whether it's shooting on the run, winning a one-on-one matchup. We've seen him now in transition a lot this season, varying from range. Redwoods offensively last year, there was games where Ryder Garnsey was the only lefty on offense. And I think they've done a good job this offseason at throwing some more resources at that. They picked up Mikey Bain, they picked up Maea to kind of add some fuel to the left side, but they needed a jolt of energy and infusion of talent. And whether he plays attack or midfield, I think is inconsequential. They just needed more offensive talent on their left side to balance things out.
High left above goal line extended type player with an absolute hammer of a shot. It's the quick release that Michael Leo has that makes him pro ready. Michael Leo played midfield his first 3 years at Syracuse. Now he's exclusively playing attack. He likes to go after matchups too. Like if you get him involved in the two-man game, potentially with a Ryder Garnsey, like he will attack matchups. He also has a chip on his shoulder and an edge. Like when the moment is big, Michael Leo wants the ball. His freshman year against North Carolina, game is tied, overtime. Michael Leo has the ball, game winner. The bright lights, he never shies away from. Like he is built for professional lacrosse in terms of embracing that type of pressure and stress. And he's got a relationship with the GM, Joe Spallina, whose son is Michael Leo's roommate at Syracuse. So Joe Spallina knows what he's getting.
You can't overlook that, especially when you have two quality lefties still on the board with Palumbo and Collison, Matt Collison out of Johns Hopkins. So I imagine the relationship and the familiarity of Joe Spallina with Michael Leo played a factor here.
Another Long Island guy going to the California Redwoods, their GM, Joe Spallina, joins us right now. Joe, you stay put at 6, and you end up getting Michael Leo, who these guys have mentioned you know pretty well. Why was Leo the pick here?
Yeah, I think we looked at, the midfield was a focal point for us. Obviously, for us to get a guy like Michael, who's explosive, can win a matchup, like you guys had said, gives us balance. I think another part of this as well is he's got, played high school ball with Andrew McAdory, Aiden Denenza. So there is chemistry, pre-existing chemistry. And in pro lacrosse, when you can add, some pre-existing chemistry, that certainly helps with obviously practice time, not being as much as you have in college. So, Michael's a competitor. He plays with that chip on his shoulder, and I think he's going to be a great addition for what we have offensively. And in a really good complementary piece. He'll run out of the midfield. Like you said, he'll flex down to attack at times if we need him there. But, I think, adding a player like Michael is exposed to scoring ability and a snap. He's got snappy wrist. He can absolutely hammer the ball. So, obviously, seeing him play so many games throughout the last 4 years, plus he played for me club ball. So there's a lot of familiarity with his skill set and how it fits exactly with the Redwoods.
Joe, obviously you got your guy at number 6. How hard was it in terms of not giving away too much to potentially get your son Joey earlier in the draft?
Yeah, Joey's fantastic. He's an unbelievable teammate. He's an unbelievable player. And listen, Clark, full disclosure, it wasn't from a lack of effort. We certainly pushed and pursued the ability to get the best player, that Joey is. And, for us to push and try. And again, it takes, it just didn't work out. He's a tremendous talent. It would be nice, honestly, to be able to just go to the game and not have to wear and just be a dad when he's playing, which will be a lot of fun. And just to kind of sit up in the stands and relax and watch him play. It takes away, obviously, some of that pressure. But certain pressure is something he's dealt with since he's young. And I think his relationship with some of the players there, and especially with Rob Pennell, you have to remember he was on the sideline with the Lizards. I have pictured those guys warming up together at the All-Star game when I coached Rob, with New York for all those years. So there's a really strong relationship there, and it's something honestly that they talked about, as early as this past week. So to watching those two play together will actually be bittersweet. It'll be it'll be a tear-in-eye moment for a dad and just two guys that. Rob won a championship with us in 2015, and just has been Joey's dream since he's been a little guy running the sidelines of pro lacrosse. So, he's a full-time lacrosse guy, and the Whip's got a really good one there.
Joe Spallina, a proud dad, even if he's playing for another team in the PLL. Joe, thank you. The Carolina Chaos moved down in this draft from pick 4 to 7. Their pick is ready. Let's go back to Paul Rabel.
All right, with the 7th overall pick in the 2026 PLL College Draft, the Carolina Chaos select Chad Palumbo, attack, Princeton.
If I'm the Carolina Chaos staff, Stephen Brooks and Spencer Ford, this played out exactly how I wanted to. Every mock that I've done, every chess piece that I've moved around, my ability to trade down from 4 to 7, pick up draft capital, 2 extra draft picks, 22, 28, and ultimately get the guy that I probably would have taken at 4, gun to my head, is just fantastic maneuvering from Spencer Ford, the general manager there.
Absolutely. This pick reeks to me two-man game with Owen Hiltz. These are two super crafty players that know how to play in tight spaces, but also can stretch with some real heat too. Chad Palumbo is so productive. He played midfield like Michael Leo his first 3 years. Now he's playing attack. He could get under you. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he is so slick, and he's played for Jim Mitchell, the offensive coordinator, who's been a pro offensive coordinator. He's ready for the spot.
And this guy's a warrior. I mean, think about everything he has overcome. Diagnosed with cancer as a senior in high school, 6 months of chemotherapy. He's a Nobles kid from Massachusetts. He's overcome cancer and, oh, by the way, a serious knee injury when he scored 6 goals against Syracuse in the NCAA tournament. Syracuse did win that game, by the way, RB. But, of course, you would say that you are a Princeton guy, but this guy's a really good player.
He's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, you look at his skill set. He is just a human highlight reel. I mean, he's got a behind-the-back assist game after game after game. The skill, the creativity, he absolutely loves lacrosse.
Yes.
Is so dedicated to the craft. I think you look at him, the two-man game with Hiltz on the left side, his ability to play X, if you need him there, his ability to play midfield, his ability to win a one-on-one matchup. He just has a lot of versatility when it comes to his offensive skill set. And at the pro ranks, you need that type of creativity.
Yep.
And I just love the Chaos team that lacks scoring punch. They made a big step forward, but they still lack offensive punch.
This guy,
to add him is a huge step forward for this offense.
Yeah. One last thing, when you think of Chad Palumbo too, he's not a straight line type guy, but like Connor Fields, he understands body pressure. He slips under you, and he just creates offense every time he has the ball.
Stephen Brooks is the Carolina Chaos head coach, first-year coach, coming off a championship series win. Coach Brooks, how do you see Chad Palumbo fitting in your offense?
Being on the lefty side with Owen Hiltz is a big key piece for us. He's not going to be, like you guys said, Kark, he's not going to beat you off the dodge with speed, but where he's going to get you is with his IQ, his ability to score, finish, and even see the field on the backside and moving the ball is a big component for us. But more importantly, having him work with Hiltzy on that left side and allowing them to work that two-man game is going to be a big piece for us.
Stephen, when you traded down from 4 to 7, how much did you hold your breath? Are you just starting to come up for air right now? How confident were you that he'd still be there at 7, or how much worry kind of crept in for you?
I could finally take a breath, that's for sure. But I have all faith in our GM, Spencer Ford. He does a fantastic job. He thinks outside the box occasionally, and sometimes you just got to take a risk. And we decided that, making that trade and gaining trade value later in the rounds is going to be a huge piece. It's a big risk for us, but we're happy that we got the reward.
All right, you get Chad Palumbo at 7. Congratulations, Coach Brooks. Can't wait to see him in your offense. The team that Coach Brooks used to be with, the New York Atlas, last year's PLL champions, they're on the clock. Let's go back to Paul Rabel.
With the 8th and final pick of the first round in your 2026 PLL College Draft, the 2025 PLL champion New York Atlas select Alex Ross, defense, Penn State.
First defenseman, Carter.
Yes, and he is an elite cover guy. His feet are incredible, his balance, the way he plays leverage. He is a close defender. I don't look at him as a flex guy, but Alex Ross is one of those lefties who sits on righty dodgers, can play in space. He's having a phenomenal year. But it wasn't just this year. Like, if you look at his body of work, he's a multi-year starter for Jeff Tambroni. He's played in championship weekend. He's locked down some of the best attackmen in the Big Ten and nationally, because the Nittany Lions play out of conference. And he's been a calls turnover machine. He's got a big-time motor. He is a number one cover guy, and they needed that because someone left in the offseason.
Yeah, this fits an immediate need for them. Gavin Adler was the biggest free agent signing of this past offseason. He goes from the defending champ Atlas over to Philadelphia. And that move really kind of opened up a starting spot. You look at their close defense, you got Makar and Rexroad. You got the Tyler Carpenter at LSM. And then Michael Grace, his ability to flex between close D and LSM. You love that versatility that he brings. But losing Adler just had this wide open spot that they needed to fill with a strong cover guy.
Not just a strong cover guy, but a lefty so the rest of the defense could stay whole, because Gavin Adler's a lefty, and you're replacing him with another lefty in Alex Ross. So you don't disrupt things with Makar and Rexroad and the flexibility that they have in other spots.
And I love that now Grace, you can play him at LSM or close depending on the matchup, right? We talked about, am I going against a team that's got 3 Dodgers? Well, now I've got 3 cover guys. Do I need the air traffic controller? Do I want Grace, who scored 10 points in transition last year? Do I want him in the pole in the LSM position, getting up and down? So I think Ross kind of opens up Grace in terms of that flexibility. He unlocks that even more.
Mike Pressler led the Atlas to a championship last year in the PLL. He joins us now. Coach, this is the first defenseman off the board in this year's draft. Why was Alex Ross the guy you went with?
Well, I think Ryan and Kark said it. You know, he's an elite cover guy, and there's some incredible defensemen in this group, especially. But for us moving forward, you know, that fills a great void, and he was the best of the bunch, and had a great call with him. Plays for one of the greatest coaches in Division I right now, in Jeff Tambroni. What he's done with the Penn State program, so you know, we feel we got a winner on a lot of different levels with Alex Ross.
Coach, as this first round unfolds, how much are you salivating and kind of licking your chops, just like, yes, take another offensive player, take another attackman, take another midfielder, let the top D guy just kind of fall to me?
Well, you know, again, it's we're in a reactionary spot here. You know, we're the last pick in all 4 rounds, so we got to kind of be able to be flexible here, depending on who comes off the board. But to pick the first defenseman off the board in this year's group was huge for us, and you know, we're thrilled to have, like I said, Alex Ross.
All right, Coach Pete, thanks for the time. Good luck against Southlake on Thursday, and congrats on drafting Alex Ross.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Drew.
All right, that is 1 round in the books. 8 picks have been made as the best players from college become rookies in the PLL. People are talking.